Hello, I am Dr. B.J. Geeta, Assistant Professor of English at Periyar University, Salem. Today we are going to see a topic called eco-criticism. This topic is very contemporary as we have been facing many environmental issues like global warming, extinction of species, forest fire, erosion of soil, sea level rise, explosion of population, pollution, all these factors that affect this planet. Even now, we are facing a contagious disease called COVID 19, which is also a sort of environmental issue. This disease is a consequence of human encroachment on this planet Earth. So, what is this eco criticism? Eco criticism is the study on ecological concern reflected in literary text. Let us begin this topic with Cheryl Clotfelte's definition. According to her, eco criticism is the study of the relationship between literature and the physical environment reflected in the literary text. This study is similar to feministic discourse, which examines the language and literature from the perspective of gender. This is also similar to Marxist criticism, which brings out the awareness in the mode of production and distribution within the superstructure. So, eco criticism is the study, earth based study reflected in literary text. Now let us see the institutional history of the term eco-criticism. This term was traced by Michael P. Branch in an essay entitled Literature and Ecology, an Experiment in Eco-Criticism, written by William Ruckert in 1978. Another writer called Karl Kroeber has applied ecology to refer to nature in his article Home at Grasmere, Ecological Holiness in 1974. But unfortunately, both these terms, eco-criticism and ecology, they remained in dormant for so many years. It was only in 1989 Cheryl Glotfelty revived these two terms. She, along with her co-editor Harold Fromm, has published a collection of essays entitled The Eco-Criticism Reader, Landmarks in Literary Ecology in 1996. This publication has officially set forth for the formulation of the association, Eco-Critical Association called ASLE, Association for the Study of Literature and Environment. This association also has in-house journal called ESLE, Interdisciplinary Studies in Literature and Environment. Now let us see the opinions, the ideologies of eco-criticism and about nature being opinionated by many literary personalities. According to Lawrence Buell, eco-criticism is a study of the relationship between literature and the environment, but which should be conducted in a spirit of commitment in terms of environmentalist praxis. The Victorian poet Matthew Arnold also reflected upon his opinion on nature because human interaction with the surroundings, spaces, and places, they consistently produce meaning to human life. Again, John Ruskin's the very famous coinage, pathetic fallacy, also reflects eco-consciousness when he associates human emotions with the environment. In the similar vein, the American transcendentalist Emerson also spoke about nature when he said, "Nature always wears the colors of the spirit." Now let us see the objectives of eco-critical approach. Basically, eco-critical approach makes a stern confrontation against human actions, as human actions and encroachment on nature brings out lot of hazards on nature and other species, and most of the time eco-critical approach seems to be a kind of bringing out a kind of awareness through literature. So it makes an effect uh, of environment in terms of social unity, and it also makes a study with the interdependence of all components of environment. And the focus of eco-criticism is to spread awareness about environment through literature. It also introduces an eco-critical approach to literature. And basically, eco-criticism is a transcontinental study of literature and environment. Now let us see the different nomenclatures applied by both American and British literature. Americans prefer eco-criticism for their study about nature, whereas British literature tend to use green studies for their study about nature. As far as the literary bearings and tendency of American writing about nature seems to be much of a celebration, a kind of elation in tone, much towards to the spirit of tree hugging. Whereas quite contrary to American approach, the British approach seems to be minatory in tone and majorly focusing on environmental hazards caused by government, industries, commercial institutions, and neo-colonial forces. For instance, Jonathan Baird in The Song of the Year 2000 also argues about the connection between colonization and deforestation and how it affects the nature, the impact of colonization on nature and as well as on human beings. In fact, they go hand in glove. Now let us see how this eco-criticism has emerged in United States of America. It all started with the Transcendentalist movement. The three famous Transcendentalists, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Margaret Fuller, and Henry David Thoreau. Especially Emerson, in his famous work called Nature, he makes a statement on the principle of the philosophy of transcendentalism, and where he also set forth a hypothesis to account for nature by other principles than those of carpentry and chemistry. In fact, Emerson talks about mythical unity between human existence and nature, and he urges his readers to enjoy and create a relationship with the nature. Margaret Fuller, in her famous work called Summer on the Lakes, which she has written in 1843, when she was pursuing her graduation, and she was the first women student at Harvard University. And this article is basically an autobiographical account of her intimacy with the American landscape and how this American landscape has promoted her personality, and she reflects upon all her encounters with the nature and her close connections, and how she makes an emotional connect with the nature. All that is being reflected in this particular work. Next, we see that how Thoreau has made a document on his solitary existence in Walden, a pond near Massachusetts, where he stayed for more than 2 years. And he makes a philosophical account about his human experience with a close, intimate relationship with nature, and how he celebrates, how he is able to create a life in harmony with nature, a soul fulfilling experience which he has encountered. So all that is being documented, reflected by Thoreau in this Walden. In fact, Thoreau remained pioneer for many American nature writers. As we find different waves of feminism, we also find waves of studies of eco-criticism. This is basically formulated, these waves are formulated by Lawrence Buell in his book called The Emergence of Environmental Criticism, where he formulated, categorized the evolution of eco-criticism into different waves. According to Lawrence Buell, the first wave of eco-criticism has the characteristic features by its emphasis on nature writing as an object of study and as a meaningful practice. This wave also addresses the environmental crisis, seeing it as the duty of both the humanities and the natural science to raise awareness and invent solution for the problems that is both cultural and physical. The primary concern is to speak, to address about all these natural hazards. This wave, unlike the successors, kept the cultural distinction between human and nature, promoting the value of nature. It also observed the solitary observation of nature and society, and engagement in social matters set into motion became the object of focus of the first wave of eco-criticism. It also sought to connect readers' awareness to environmental ethics. And primarily it ignored urban spaces and heavily populated areas, maintaining the culture of nature dualism. As far as the second wave of eco-criticism, Lawrence Buell wanted to define the salient feature of this second wave of eco-criticism by citing Joseph Maker's The Comedy of Survival, which he has written in 1974, where he proposed his famous theory to define human life into comedies and tragedies, where he has defined human life by citing characters, referring to characters created by Dante and Shakespeare. So basically, tragedies was exclusively the creation of Western civilization, arising out of its heroic myths, while comedy was very nearly universal, occurring wherever human culture is, making it literary ecology, the study of relationship between the literary arts and scientific ecology. So this wave made a glorification of separation of culture from nature and elevation of the former to moral predominance. This wave also wanted to maintain the hierarchy among the species by celebrating anthropocentrism. Why anthropocentrism? Because when you celebrate a tragedy, you have to celebrate anthropocentrism, because the basic quality of anthropocentric or tragic definition of human life is identified in the tragic conception of a hero whose moral struggles are more important than mere biological survival. The science of animal ethnology shows that a comic mode is nothing but a muddling through and making no love with war has superior ecological value as far as this wave is concerned. The productive and stable ecosystem, by minimizing destructive aggressions and encouraging maximum diversity, and to seek to establish equilibrium among their participants, which are the and uh, essential parameters of literary comedy. Meeker again viewed biological life and cultural life as reciprocal by invoking Oscar Wilde's very famous dictum, life imitates art at least as much as art imitates life. This wave brought with its redefinition of the term environment, expanding its meaning to include both nature and the urban. So with this, we conclude the introductory chapter of eco-criticism. I will catch you later in the next video. Thank you.